talking about football. Always. Even when we're in the heart of baseball season, even though in a couple of days, the Rhody Rams in Little Rock and DBU will be making their way to Baton Rouge to take on teams in the Baton Rouge Regional. I love summer baseball. I love that you're going to have a regional here. I love the fact that you have a chance to get to a super in the box going to Omaha and us having another month and a half to talk about baseball. But because of the chaotic nature of what has been happening this week at SEC spring meetings and your head coach going out there giving his opinions, we got to talk about it. Brian Kelly does make some very, and I mean this, big announcements. And I say announcements, but not like stuff he hasn't said before. But he puts his foot in the ground. He puts a line in the sand on where he thinks that college football should go. We'll talk about that. But the biggest thing from Brian Kelly today is that him saying that he believes that this is the best roster that he has had since he has been at LSU. So tonight, we'll lead the show off with that as we get rolling here. So as we've kind of been talking about the last couple of weeks, is this Brian Kelly's best roster? And football is among us, and we must discuss that. Indeed, we'll run through 7 things that Brian Kelly said, and we'll break things down about the playoff 9-game conference schedule that I do not agree with him on, facing off against the Big Ten. So many different things that Brian Kelly alluded to today that we need to touch on. We'll talk about the Little Rock. Why do I want to call them the Red Raiders? Because they're not the Red Raiders. I don't even know their mascot. We will break down the game and preview the game tonight about Little Rock, some things that you need to going into Friday in the game 1 of the regional in Baton Rouge. So we'll talk a little bit about Little Rock. Last night, we talked a lot about Rhode Island. We talked a lot about DBU. Tonight, we'll talk about the opponent that we'll face off on Friday as well here. Also, on the docket for tonight, we'll preview or we'll talk about the Big Ten and the SEC, Big Ten versus SEC as a whole. We'll talk about that in our football segment as well. What do I think about that series in football, the Big Ten versus the SEC? We'll get into that as well. And then if we have thoughts, questions, concerns at the end of the show, we'll get to those as well here. Penn Jones says, let's go. Good evening, good sir. How are you? Where is everybody watching from tonight? Where is everybody watching from tonight? You in the 225, the 504, the 337, the 985, or you're outside the state? Where are you watching from? And if you're outside the state, where are you representing? Philip Rose says, hey, Blake, do you think LSU will get any commitments after this weekend? I do think that there could be some on the docket, yes. Stephen Busby says, finally, I have come back and able to catch a live show with Blake. Good to have you in here. Andrew Paulza Martin says, here's a regional mascot god. DBU is the Patriots. You got the Rhody Rams, the Little Rock Trojans. And we're not talking about the condom. Right? I mean, I'm assuming we're not talking about the condom here. Thank you, Paulza. We need to bring Paulza into AYS. My man is a walking sports encyclopedia. He's a walking, talking encyclopedia. I love having conversations with Paulza because my man knows his stuff. Noah Mason says, Plano, Texas, go Tigers is in the building. Robert Miller is in the 337 Eunice, the Fighting Jeff Willises of LSU Eunice. Good to have you in here. Tiger Boy says he's in Minnesota. What's the weather like? What's the weather like right now up there in Minnesota? What's the weather like? Because I know right now, man, we were at a baseball camp all day. We've been taking Ben, or I have been taking Ben to baseball camp all week. And it has been hotter than a hoochie coochie out there, man. And if you don't know how hot a hoochie coochie, man, is, it is Satan hot. Way down yonder on the Chattahoochee. It's hot as hell out there, boy. Your boy's getting, this Italian skin. It's getting darker, man. It's getting darker. So it is hotter than the hoochie coochie. What's the weather like that out there in Minnesota? High Point Media says, watching live from my closet. Well, in a non-sexual manner, you can come out of the closet. You don't have to stay in the closet. You're not going to be judged by me on this show. You can stay in, stay out. I don't care where you just come out of the closet. And I mean that in a non-sexual manner. Claude is in the 804, Virginia in the house. Claude is, are there a lot of people in Virginia talking about Brian O'Connor being interested in that Mississippi State job? I don't know. Are people talking about it? Chris Lomax says the 901 is in the building. Is that the Memphis, Tennessee area? But Chris Lomax says the 901 is in the house. Good to have you in here. Greg Porsche says, let's go, Blake. Good to have you in here with us as well. So Chase is in the building as well. He says, what's up, Blake, from the 318. 3-1, great. Yeah, the 318, man, still dominating on the audio podcast. You guys, I love the 318. I feel like an adopted son at this point as much as y'all listen to the audio podcast. Legitimately. I really do. I love the 318. Beautiful. Beautiful. I love every part of the state. The top, the bottom, the sides. I love every bit. Maybe I just described about what I love about my wife. The top, the bottom, everything. Chris Lomax says, yes, it is the Memphis. Yeah, don't be messing out there in Memphis now. Memphis is a scary, scary place. Peekaboo says, Ryan. I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means. David says, is there a run rule in the regionals and super regionals? If I'm not mistaken, no. Paul's up would know. I'm almost pretty positive that there's not a run rule. Paul's up. Am I wrong there? I'm pretty sure that there's no run rule in the tournament. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty positive there's not. Harry Alfonso's in the 504. Good to have you in here with us. Ken Mallory is Big Birmingham. Let's go. Good to have you in here with us, Ken. Nashville in the building. Alan Smith. Gotta love it. Absolutely gotta love it. Man, that's why we bring that up in here to see where everybody's listening from. Because we're from coast to coast in this hoe. I'm known, my daddy used to say, I'm known from coast to coast. And no, he wasn't. Frank Castle with a $5 super chat says, I finished the Ruffino and Joe show. Every SEC team would kill to play those soft-ass Big Ten schedules, every single one. So, Frank, we're going to talk about that here tonight. Now, I kind of wanted to start the show off with this, and we can certainly get into it. But I do think that the SEC would kind of lick their chops a little bit in playing some of these SEC, or the SEC would lick some of their chops, Pauls, in reference to playing some of these big teams, like Big Ten teams. Guys, the bottom 7 teams in the SEC, the bottom 7, South Carolina, Texas A&M, Florida, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Auburn, Kentucky, Mississippi State. The bottom 7 in the Big Ten, and we'll talk about this literally tonight, Michigan State, UCLA. Guys, y'all saw UCLA up close and personal. Guys, UCLA was a middle-of-the-pack Big Ten team. Now, you lost to USC, and people say, well, Blake, LSU lost to USC. They did. But a middle-of-the-pack UCLA team got blown out in Baton Rouge. Blown out. Oh, Blake, the game was close. No, they weren't close, man. They weren't winning that game. Wisconsin. Guys, you think about this. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There were 5 teams in the Big Ten worse than UCLA, that UCLA team you saw. Wisconsin, Northwestern, Maryland, Purdue, and, well, no, there were 4. Yeah, there were 4 because Nebraska wasn't worse than them. Wisconsin, Northwestern, Maryland, Purdue. And y'all going to come in here and tell me that it's the same. It's not the same. Mitch in all caps says it's University of Arkansas at Little Rock. What in the ULL is going on here? What in the Raging Cajuns is going on in Little Rock? Just not happening. Alexander Taylor says, what about Rutgers? No, Rutgers was actually better than the more top half, ironically, than the bottom 7 of the Big Ten. Rutgers did not have a bad season. Speaking of Wisconsin, they have a tough schedule this year. They have a tough schedule every year, considering on how they got to play. But even Rutgers. I mean, guys, I'd love to go to New Jersey and play Rutgers. I mean, hell. I just don't look. I do not believe. I just don't believe that it's the same, and I don't agree with the 9-conference game schedule. I don't, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the Brian Kelly meeting and everything that he talked about today in just a moment. Claude says worst sports coverage in the world. I haven't heard a word. Guys, y'all can hear me, correct? Everybody in the chat, y'all can hear me, correct? Clyde, I think you need to turn your phone volume up, brother. I don't think this one's on me. Yeah, y'all can hear me in the chat. I mean, the chat is live. I mean, people say that I'm the worst, and you're the one that doesn't have the volume up. What's up with that, bro? How y'all gonna take a shot at me when y'all's the one effing up? How in the hell y'all gonna rip on me? Clyde, how you gonna rip on me when you can't hear and it's your own fault? Come on, man. Come on. Frank Castle with a $10 super chat says, an F 9-conference SEC games. Just 6 of our SEC games stretch are usually more brutal than their 9. The number of SEC teams in the top 25 strength of schedule annually validates this. Look, let's get into this, okay? Before we get rolling, we can get into it. So, in case you missed it, and in case you haven't been paying attention and you've been in full baseball mode, during the offseason, the Big Ten and the SEC have started to come up with a little bit of an agreement in reference to playing each other in the beginning of the season. And in that, the college football playoff format has come up in that debate. So today, as an example, a lot of the SEC coaches voted on the format of a 16-team playoff that they would like. Their voting premise was 5 teams that get auto bids. I'm assuming the conference champions, and then the 4 Power 4 conference champions, and the highest group of 5. And then the next 11 teams that would be in the playoff, it completely be an at-large bid. When the coaches announced that and said that is the model that they would go to in a 16-team playoff format, because, guys, we're going to a 16-team playoff format whether you like it or not, the Big Ten and Tony Bettini, their commissioner, met with their ADs and said, no. We don't want to go to a 5-11 model because we play 9 conference games. So then put into the debate of what is more difficult. Right? Like, what is more difficult? Well, we play an extra conference game. Okay. Guys, I literally just read off the bottom half of the Big Ten. Nebraska, Michigan State, UCLA, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Maryland, Purdue. Those were the teams in the bottom 7 of the Big Ten a year ago. If you're an LSU fan, you saw UCLA up close and personal a year ago. Legitimately. The back half of the SEC consisted of Texas A&M, South Carolina, who some thought could have been a playoff team, Florida, who dominated at the end of the year, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Auburn, Mississippi State. Now, Auburn and Mississippi State, okay, like you could say whatever you want about Auburn, but Auburn is still a 6-7, 5-7 team. They're horrible, but they're not Purdue. They're not Purdue. Guys, Northwestern has been one of the more worst teams in all of P4 football. Maryland has been horrendous. Guys, it's not the same. And you know how we know where the best athletes are in the country? Because the NFL draft tells us the reason that the SEC has always been harder than the Big Ten is because of schedule, because of dominance, because of national championships, and in a historic run. It has been because of players drafted. Oh, and by the way, the SEC went through a massive change last year with a guy like Nick Saban walking out of the door, Kalen DeBoer coming in and having to try to figure things out at Alabama. Sark was in his 4th year, at Texas. Just getting rolling there. Heupel, the same deal. Brian Kelly, the same deal. Billy Napier, the same deal. All of these coaches building up towards what guys like James Franklin had. And what Ohio State has, and Ryan Day. Guys, I would take Oregon's schedule. I mean, because they had Ohio State and they played Boise State. Now, they almost lost to Boise State. But, guys, I mean, that is their toughest game. By the way, it was at home. At home. They didn't have to play Penn State in the regular season. So, of those three teams, what are we discussing here? The middle part of the SEC consisted of LSU, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Alabama, Tennessee. It's a joke. Because the middle half of the Big Ten, I don't know. Back to the main point. The main point for me is this. I know why the Big Ten is not accepting the playoff format of the 5+11. Because the SEC will get more of those spots, and they're blaming that the SEC doesn't have 9 conference games. That is their reason for blaming why they don't want to accept it, and they're running from it. Because the SEC will get the most at-large bids in that scenario. Just look at what would have happened a season ago. Because if the Big Ten and the SEC play each other in the beginning of the year and they lock into an agreement for the conferences to go at it in the beginning of the season, you're going to play it out on the field anyway. You're going to play it out on the field. So why in the world would I say that? Why wouldn't we do the 5-11 model? If the Big Ten beats the SEC, let's just say of the games that you would have allotted, if in a 10 game, and it won't be 10 games, but in a 10 games, the the Big Ten goes 6-4 against the SEC. Sounds good. You had the upper hand based off of wins of losses of what happened on the field. But if it's the inverse and the SEC does it, now what? A conference game doesn't change that. Now, we're going to have a really good look because Texas goes up to Ohio State this year. The second best team in the SEC was at the 2-yard line and tying the national champion. Georgia a season ago, guys, everybody wants to blame Georgia and say, oh, Notre Dame beat Georgia. Georgia lost their starting quarterback. And whether you think Carson Beck is ass or not, Gunnar Stockton was not ready. It wasn't ready. So they're pinning these conferences against one another. Let's go see who's the best on the field. You got Texas and Ohio State week 1. Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out. But I do think it's ironic, very ironic, that people clown Bama or other teams for losing to Vandy or playing close games to Vandy when the national champion lost to Michigan, who was 8-5 team too. And ironically, Michigan and Alabama did play, but Blake, bowl games matter. They're the end-all, be-all. Guys never opt out of bowl games anymore either. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. All right, we got a couple more Super Chats in here, and then we'll get rolling. Tiger Boy with a $10 Super Chat says, how do you feel about 13-game schedule with 9 conference games, 2 Power 4, 2 Rena wins, so that you play everyone faster? Here's the thing. I'm sorry I messed up there at the end in reference to what you were saying. I don't agree with a 13-game schedule because you're already adding in games. Tiger Boy, here's another thing that you got to add in too. The SEC and Big Ten and most Power 4 conferences might go into what they call play-in games. And if you go into play-in games, you're adding a 13th game. You would be adding a 9th conference game into your schedule already, and then you're playing the Big Ten. Right? So you would have to play 9 SEC games. If you're going to get into the playoff, a 10th SEC game, and then you would have 11 if you have to play the Big Ten in the beginning of the season. I don't like it. I don't like it because at the end of the day, things just aren't going to be created equally. Like, for example, what if LSU's playing game is Texas or Tennessee or Ole Miss again? Like, If you're talking about Big Ten, like play-ins, Illinois has to go up against a team like Nebraska or Rutgers. Illinois gets to play Rutgers to get into a playoff. What do you think's created equally? So LSU versus Ole Miss is the same level of competition of Illinois versus Rutgers. Get out of my face with that. Get out of my face with that. You know it's not. I know it's not. Everyone knows it's not. So I don't know if I agree with going to 9, but the Big Ten trying to pressure the SEC because they're not buying into what the SEC coaches voted on. You're running scared from it then. Because you know that the SEC will get in more teams than you. Here would be, Tiger Boy, here's one thing I would say to you, and we got to get rolling here, and I'll get to Frank's Super Chat in just a moment. Here's the thing that I would throw in there to you, okay? The thing that I would massively throw in there to you would be this. If you're going to add more games into these kids' schedules, I keep calling them kids, man. Y'all know what I mean. If you keep adding games and players have to play more games, I want the targeting rule of kids getting kicked out and eliminated from a rest of the game or the next game and a half. I want that eliminated. Stop talking to me about player safety. It's not about player safety then. Oh, we're kicking guys out and suspending them for a half because of player safety. Bitch, you're adding games. You're adding whole games. There might be one targeting game, or targeting per game. So all these other dudes that are taking beatings for more games so that everybody makes more money. And by the way, administration's saying that they have to make more money for football. No, they don't. They're trying to make more money so that they can keep sports like gymnastics alive. And no disrespect to gymnastics. It's not a generating revenue sport. Neither is women's basketball in some instances. So, yeah. All right, last one. We got to get rolling here. Thank you guys so much. I'm very humbled and feel very humbled that y'all are sending in these super chats. Thank you so much. Desperately needed it. Desperately needed. The all season's not favorable to your boy. Frank Castle with a $10 super chat says, do you guys in the chat want to play Purdue, Northwestern, Maryland, Michigan State, UCLA, Nebraska, Rutgers, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and others every year? Because I do. I agree with Frank. I would rather play Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, Minnesota, Rutgers, Nebraska, UCLA, Michigan State, Maryland, Northwestern, Purdue versus playing Florida, Texas A&M, South Carolina, Oklahoma when they're right. I would. I desperately would. So, yeah. Thank you guys so much. Very humbled by that. Need to do this. Let me get to a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about Brian Kelly at SEC spring meetings. He says this is the best roster that he's ever had. We're going to talk about it next. Stay with us. Oh, by the way, hold on. Everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, and wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. We'll be right back. We got lots to discuss from Brian Kelly at SEC spring meetings. Stay with us.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just Call 955-000, hey. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Red Stick Financial. They're your local residential mortgage broker located right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At Red Stick Financial, they find the bank that works for your particular set of needs to purchase the home of your dreams or refinance the current one. They truly are your partners in this process, and they pride themselves in helping individuals and families with one simple goal in mind, and that is to make home financing approachable, attainable, and stress-free. They are licensed in all Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. So from Amarillo to Meridian and everything in between, they have you covered. Red Stick Financial brings you creative, customized solutions, and they don't believe in the one-size-fits-all when it comes to loans. They even have special options for mobile and manufactured homes located in a flood zone and stated income financing for those of us who are self-employed borrowers. If you or someone you know is looking to buy a home, refinance an existing mortgage, or simply want to know what options are out there for your future, give Red Stick Financial a call today at 225-407-9250. That's 225-407-9250. Or check them out online at redstickfinancial.com. That's redstickfinancial.com. Before you purchase the home of your dreams or you go and do that refinance, you need to go local. Go Red Stick. We're back. All right. I need to bring this up very quickly because Kirby Smart did drop a pretty massive bombshell today in reference to at SEC spring meetings, in reference to players in high school getting paid $20,000 a month to stay committed to a certain school. He isn't wrong. Guys, in high school recruiting, and this has been what I have been mentioning in reference to when we've done recruiting updates, in reference to high school and LSU attacking certain ways that they are attacking high school recruiting, that, guys, there are some institutions in some places that are paying kids in high school right now $20,000 to stay committed to their school and to go to their school right now. That is the new norm. That is where the sport is at. And guys, quite frankly, I bring it up every time. I know that you don't like it. I know that a lot of you don't agree with it. And to some instances, I don't know if I agree with it. But one thing is for sure. If you're gonna play the game, you gotta play the game so that you can win it. It's unfortunate. I hate it. But in case you missed it today, Kirby Smart did drop a bombshell in reference to the $20,000 per month that some of these kids are making straight out of in high school right now to stay committed to their team. I'm not saying that happened for guys like DeCorian Moore and others, but you wouldn't be off base if you thought that. You would not be off base if you thought that. That is for damn sure. All right. So Brian Kelly was at SEC spring meetings today, and I want to run through some of the things that he said. Some of these things that we're going to run through very quickly and that I agree with him on. Brian Kelly says that he definitely invites the idea of the SEC versus the Big Ten in a matchup. We want to go play the Big Ten. They've won the last two national titles with two different teams. You're damn right we want to go take them on. Good. I love having a head coach that's not scared to go play. And quite frankly, Brian Kelly wouldn't stop there today at SEC spring meetings, as he said that he voted for 9 conference games in the SEC. I am glad that he's not scared and doesn't want to back down from going to 9. Good on him. Now, I think Brian Kelly sits in a certain situation where he knows that a lot of teams are not going to vote yes for it, like Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, and others. South Carolina. They're going to have to play rivals outside their conference already. As an example, South Carolina versus Clemson, Florida versus Florida State, and others. I can understand why those teams would not want to do that and play the Big Ten in the beginning of the year and then play an out of conference P4 as a rival at the end of the year. I understand it. But I'm glad that he's not backing down from it and that he voted for it. I don't agree with him on 9 conference games. I've kind of made my peace this week, and I've said multiple times throughout the week, I don't agree. The SEC going to 9 conference games, the schedule is tough for a lot of teams in and of itself. I could look at LSU's schedule going into the year and say to myself that they possibly are going to face the number 1 strength of schedule in the country. They are staring down the barrel for sure of facing the toughest quarterbacks more than anybody in the conference or anybody in college football. When you got to go up against DJ Lagway, Cade Klubnik, Lenore Sellers, Marcel Reed, Taylon Green in year 2 at Arkansas. These situations are not the same, but I'm glad he's not backing down from it. I don't have to agree with him on it, and I certainly don't agree with him on it here, but I'm glad he's not backing down. I don't think that 9 conference games benefits LSU. I don't. I think it hurts LSU because, quite frankly, guys, you have rivalries that are built in with teams like A&M, with teams like Bama, that I don't know if the SEC is going to go away from. Some of these teams you're going to have to continue to play every year. Now, Arkansas is your main one, but listen, if you got in a situation where you're adding a 9th conference game, guys, could you have imagined instead of playing UCLA that you got to play Georgia, that you got to play Tennessee, that you got to play Texas? I'm not saying that I would want to back away or back down from any one of those teams, but your schedule is getting harder. And for what? I mean, I understand that you want to be on the level of that and you don't want to run away. I'm not trying to run away. But I don't think that going to 9 conference games has any, and we just spent a whole 30 minutes talking about this. Nowhere else in college football does it equate to the equality of what other conferences are going through. So it has nothing for me, at least, in reference to backing down. I don't think that the Big Ten plays a schedule that's worth a shit in some of these instances. Guys, there was a month where Ohio State went up against Nebraska. I think it was like, I don't know if they played Illinois, so I don't want to throw and slander Illinois, who was decent last year. But they did play Wisconsin, Northwestern, Maryland. Gus, can you name a month of the schedule for LSU a season ago where they had that strength of schedule? No, you can't, and you wouldn't. You most certainly wouldn't. So, look, I don't think, for me humbly, that there's any level of equality when it comes to scheduling in the Big Ten and the SEC. Agree, disagree, doesn't matter to me. The way that I see it is, I would much rather have, at moments in times, Ohio State schedule than I would my damn own. Without a doubt. Tell Penn State to come to Baton Rouge and win. Tell them to come down here and win. Because the last time I saw Penn State take on an SEC team, they got their cheeks clapped by Ole Miss. What are you trying to convince me of? Schedules aren't equal the same. So I love that Brian Kelly brought that up. Speaking of the playoffs, so in case you have missed this too in the offseason, there's a very strong chance that we're going to 16 teams in a 16-team playoff. I hope that this is where it ends. I am not an expansionist. I do not believe in playoff expansion because I don't think that there are 16 teams that can win it. I love more games. Guys, as someone who covers the sport from a national perspective, more games makes me more money. So, yes, I love it. I don't like expansion, though. We can have the same talking points without expansion. But we do. Brian Kelly brought up an interesting point in reference to how the selection should go for the 11 at-large bids. Now, it would seem as if that Brian Kelly was for the 5+11 model, 5 automatic qualifiers with the conference champion, and 11 at-large bids. He also stated that in that model, he would like an RPI system like they use in baseball, along with a committee. basically what Brian Kelly is saying, I would love to adopt some of the things that college baseball is doing at the current moment. Now, it's a completely different scenario with conference champions and guys and teams getting in, but you understand the premise. I don't think he's wrong there either. So when you use a model like RPI and you use a model with a committee and you put both of them side by side, I do think that it gives the ultimate fairness in reference to what we're looking at. Because we talked about this on last night's show, and I'm not going to run through it. But we went through the Big Ten strength of schedule. We went through the ACC strength of schedule and the teams that got in the playoff. Guys, it was dog water. Dog water. I mean, the toughest strength of schedule in the ACC last year was Clemson at 30, and they won the thing. The reason it was that was because they played Georgia and South Carolina. What happens if you take both of those games off? Well, you can't, and I understand that you can't. But what happens if you do? What happens if you don't play Georgia? With all the teams that were competing there at the end in the SEC, you had Georgia with the strongest strength of schedule. You had Texas, who, by the way, was at worst. They were at 30th. By the way, they beat the dog shit out of Clemson. I do think that strength of schedule and the committee playoff ranking system, the biggest thing that has been left at the door has been strength of schedule. Using an RPI model certainly changes that. Like, hey, man, we might be 8-4, 9-3, but the 11-1, 10-2 Big Ten team who's got the 100th strength of schedule, we have a higher RPI than them. I do think that piece of conversation from Brian Kelly, not only, guys, was really good, I kind of think it was a little bit genius. Because if you're going to play a soft-ass schedule and our RPI is higher than yours, and you use that along with the committee, hello. I don't disagree with BK there. I think it's a great system. Now, people use and will confuse what he's saying by RPI versus BCS, and that's not what he's saying. Like, for an example, remember in a couple of weeks ago when LSU had a game that got canceled versus Grambling, and the big thing and the talking point around that was, hey, if LSU beat the dog shit and run-ruled Grambling, they could have beat him by 20 runs. It wouldn't have mattered because their RPI would have dropped. You get a situation and system like that. You have a team like Indiana that has an RPI in the mid-50s. Then what? Then what? What does that look like? And do they get in? It would force teams to do some other things. And I don't disagree with BK on that model, but I kind of think it's ingenious. I do kind of think it's ingenious. As much as I hate how teams get ranked in RPI in reference to college baseball, it's a completely different situation here for me. Because I understand the smaller aspects and differences of what it could bring for football, and it's not the overall thing. Brian Kelly was asked on Paul Feinbaum today about his roster, and he made a joke that everybody this time of year says that it is the best roster that we have, yada, 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 and he makes fun of coach speak. But he made fun of coach speak today in SEC spring meetings on Paul Feinbaum's show today in reference to talking about his roster. And Brian Kelly said today that he thinks that this is the best overall roster that he has had at LSU. And I got to disagree with him. I think that this team coming up in 2025 has a lot that they have to prove. Can you stop turning the ball over offensively? Can you run the football? Can your offensive line do the things that they need to do to win? Can a revamped wide receiver room be more explosive and make more plays with you with Barry and Brown, Nick Anderson, and others? There are a lot of things that this team has got to prove to me that they're better than the 9-3 team that went to the SEC championship game, that they're better than the Jaden Daniels-led 2023 team. Guys, you're taking off 3 first-round picks on your offense. Actually, pause. No, we're not. 4 first-round picks was on your offense in 2022 and 2023 season that are no longer there. Jaden Daniels isn't walking through that door. Will Campbell's not walking through that door. Brian Thomas isn't walking through that door. Malik Neighbors isn't walking through that door. So to say that this is your best overall roster might be a little bit much for me, especially from an offensive standpoint. Now, can guys like Barry and Brown hit? Nick Anderson hit? Can Chris Hilton take that next step and stay healthy? Does Aaron Anderson build off of the really solid season that he had a year ago? And guys, quite frankly, the guy who was your number 1 last year. Does Tre'Davious Green replace that second-round pick of Mason Taylor? And I do think that Tre'Davious Green, for what it's worth, is the biggest mismatch in the SEC. I think he can do it. But the offensive line and running game has got to come together. So right there off the bat, just when it comes to the Brian Kelly era and saying that this is your best overall roster is a bit much for me. It's a bit much for me. I understand the coach speak of what Brian Kelly's trying to get to. And overall, as a team, hear me and hear me good. Overall, as a team, I do think that they can be better as a team. But replacing 4 first-round picks, replacing 3 top 10 picks on some of these teams, I don't know about that. But if you did have some of this is say for argument's sake that you had the same offensive production that you had a season ago, the exact same. You don't change anything. You don't change the turnovers, the rushing. You don't change anything. You could be a playoff team. And you could be a playoff team in reference to what you did defensively in the portal. You could be that from what you did at edge with Jack Pyburn and Patrick Payton and the emergence of guys like Gabe Relaford. Does Harold Perkins come back and do some really solid things at star? You got 2 linebackers that are returning. Donovan Keys, does he take a next step as a first-time starter? Does he give you better production than Greg Penn? And what does Wes Witt and Wes Weeks look like? In the secondary, guys, it's a complete overhaul. You brought in a 5-star in DJ Pickett, and you're hoping that he gives you production as a freshman. You're bringing in Mansour Delane. You're bringing in A.J. Halsey. You're bringing in Tamarcus Cooley. You're bringing in and trying to revamp everything that you did from a secondary a year ago. This Ashton Stamps, as a third-year starter, finally find a way to be an SEC dude. Those are all questions that we have to answer here. Now, if you ask me my God's honest, humble opinion, I don't know if this is the best roster that Brian Kelly has had. Here's what I do think that you could have. I think it could be his best defensive team that he's had. I think this could be by far the best defense that he's had. Now, 2022, man, there were moments and times defensively that you did some really good things. Some very, very good things. There were some moments and times in 2022 that you got blasted. Blasted. Tennessee came off in here and blasted you. They blasted you. You gave up 270 rushing yards against A&M at the end of the season. I mean, we can go on and on. But the bottom line remains. The bottom line remains is you're in a situation. Georgia killed you in the SEC championship game. I do think defensively you have a chance to be better. And if you are, guys, you could be a better overall team. The best overall roster with the 4 guys that you were replacing offensively, I don't know if offensively I am there yet. Defensively, I'm there. Offensively, I'm not remotely in the stratosphere. I'm not. Because we have to understand that what Brian Thomas did last year, leading all receivers in the NFL rookie-wise in receiving yards. Malik Neighbors going dumb. I mean, just absolutely doing special stuff. Guys, Jane Daniels led the the Commanders. He led the Commanders to the NFC Championship game and should have been, in some instances, based off of the things that he overcame, should have had some shouldn't have won it, but should have had some consideration like, hey, man, is this guy playing on the MVP level, and is he at an MVP level season? Guys, that's a lot to replace. And it's not a shot at Garrett. It's not a shot at these receivers that they have right now. It's not a shot at whoever, Tyree Adams, that replaces Will Campbell at left tackle. It's not degrading any of those guys. Guys, you're replacing 4 top 10 picks, 3 top 10 picks, and 4 first-round picks. If you're talking about the Brian Kelly era. Guys, I am with you. I am with you in the thought process and in the thinking and all of it. I am with you. I hope that this is Brian Kelly's best roster. I pray to God, sweet Jesus above, that LSU goes on a playoff run. I started off this segment in saying that I do not believe in playoff expansion, and I don't believe and agree with playoff expansion. But one thing that I do know is if you are in the business that I am, you are going to absolutely love and will absolutely adore if LSU made a playoff in football. It would be nuts. And God bless Jesus alive if you had a playoff game at home in Baton Rouge and Death Valley at night. The place would burn. I don't think any team would be able to come in here and win. It'd be like Ole Miss all over again from last season. The better team lost. Ole Miss was better than you, and they lost. They lost. So I know Brian Kelly, and listen, for what it's worth, Brian Kelly has come out here at the end of the season last year saying, we'll see in the national title game. Brian Kelly has come out here and said that this is the best roster that I've had at LSU. Those are massive words to me. Those are words that if you do not live up to them, that the fan base will be pissed. And the question becomes, do they have the right? The answer is yes. They do have the right to be pissed off. They massively have the reason to be pissed off. So you're putting a lot on the plate there. Best roster, man, I just don't know that. I don't know that. All right. Lastly, no, that's about. Oh, Brian Kelly did say that we lost our way through the season last year, but we found it and won the last 3 games. I don't know if you found it versus that you just played some really shitty teams. You beat Vanderbilt, who was banged up, and Diego Pavia had to leave the game because he was hurt. You beat Oklahoma, who was trash, and you beat Baylor, who was no fucking good. I'm not bragging over those 3 wins, if I'm being honest. Nor do I think that any of us should. So, Jordan says, got to beat Clemson, have to win week 1. Must. Aaron Mears says, Blake, Little Rock goes by UALR for University of Arkansas at Little Rock. We're calling them Little Rock. I'm not going to conform to it. You call me this. Literally on the screen, you allowed on ESPN for them to call you Little Rock. How about this? How about you go above 500 before you start dictating to me what I should call you? How about that? Ryan on YouTube says September is going to be a brutal month this season. Brutal is an understatement. Nathan E says, watch your mouth, Blake. Nate, are you joking or are you serious? I mean, go above 500. I'm not going to say UALR. You got to face against UALR this week. You're going to a game on Friday with UALR this week. Not doing it. All right, one more before we get to a break. Blank Face on YouTube says, I don't know, they blew the doors off of Oklahoma after they whooped Bama. Brother, they were 6-7. They were 6-7. They fired their entire offensive staff. They weren't good, brother. They weren't good. Look, don't justify beating Oklahoma. You're justified in being at 6-16. Like, come on, brother. Like, what are we doing there? That's a bit much for me. All right. We're going to come back and talk about Little Rock next. Stay with us.
Guys, let me tell you about our good friends over at Grand Slam Heating and Air, where your comfort is their top priority. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they promise to provide customers with high-quality HVAC service at an affordable price while ensuring the homeowner peace of mind. From their office to your home, they guarantee the best hassle-free experience around. Efficiency and comfort is their game. Let them make your home Grand Slam today. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they're offering their annual maintenance plan starting off at $18.75 a month and also doing those $99 tune-up promotion. They provide free estimates for system and ductwork replacement, as well as offering financing to get the job done with no money up front. From Baton Rouge to Hammond to Covington, they're all around. So what you need to do today, give them a call at 225-380-9065. That's 225-380-9065. Or go over to their website, getgrandslamair.com. That's getgrandslamair.com, where your comfort is their top priority.
Guys, I want to talk to you about our good friends over the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company. Are you facing tough times due to an injury from a car accident, navigating the complexities of divorce, or purchasing a new home? At the Drake Williams Law Firm and Drake Title Company, they understand the challenges you're going through, and they are here to help. The lawyer team of Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, along with Morgan Daniels, have the experience and proven track record to give you that peace of mind. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. That's 985-386-7600 to schedule a free consultation at their brand new office located in historic downtown Ponchatoula. They're also doing a special, the AYS special. If you're refinancing or closing on a home in Southeast Louisiana, request the Drake Title Company to handle your closing. If you mention Blake Ruffino and AYS, you're going to receive a $400 discount on title fees. Again, give them a call at 985-386-7600. Let them know that Blake Ruffino sent you on. Hey, Southwest Louisiana, are you ready to gear up for your next outdoor adventure or tackle that next big job on the farm? Then head on over to Henderson Tractors, Boats, and Power Sports. At Henderson and Lake Charles, they've got everything you need under one massive 30,000 square foot indoor showroom. Kubota tractors and mowers to power through the toughest tasks. Polaris off-road bikes and side-by-sides to conquer any trail. And tracker boats with brands like Ranger, Nitro, Sun Tracker, and Regency pontoons for a day out on the water. Whether you're a farmer or a hunter or just someone who loves the great outdoors, Henderson has what you need to get the job done and have fun while doing it. Browse their new and used inventory over at their website, hendersonimplement.com. That's hendersonimplement.com. Or give them a call today at 337-436-4366. That's 337-436-4366. Or go see them over in Lake Charles on the corner of East McNee Street and Highway 14. Remember, if you need a tractor, go to Henderson. Need a boat? Go to Henderson. Or if you need an ATV or side-by-side, you know where to go. Henderson. Just let them know that your good friend Blake Ruffino over at AYS sent you on by. The University of Arkansas at Little Rock. I can't do it. I just can't, I cannot do it. The University of Arkansas at Little Rock, or on this show, will be referred to as Little Rock. Let's talk about them a little bit. They're not good. They got hot in their conference tournament. That is also not good. Guys, listen. I really don't know how to break this team down. I really don't. They got a couple of guys like Cooper Chaplin, Cade Martin, hitting above 300. One has 7 bombs, one has 5. Guys, they're just not a good team. They're not a good team. They don't have great arms on the mound. They have not been shown the capacity to beat teams and even high-level teams by swinging the sticks. I don't know what to say. I mean, like, could the unthinkable happen and you go into a game in a regional in game 1 and you lose? Sure. Anything can happen, and we will talk about it if and when it happens. I just can't see it happening. No level that I could see it happening. Now, their pitching staff, guys, they're going to start a dude in Jackson Wells who has over a 5 ERA. And well, Blake, we got shoved on by a kid at Ole Miss who had an over 5 ERA. Guys, Ole Miss, a dude in the SEC with an ERA over 5 is not the same. Y'all know that, and I know that. Man, good gracious alive. I know that there's been a lot of debate. The real debate has been here, who do you pitch? Right? Like, I mean, I could come out here and break down the roster. We could talk about the different things in reference to who Little Rock is and what they can and can't do. I look at them and see a not good team, a team that's not above 500, who got hot in the conference championship game or conference's tournament weekend, and they won it and they got in. They're not good. They're not. But the question has been posed this week, who do you throw? And I got to bring this up. I've seen a lot of people talk about that they would not throw Cade Anderson or Anthony Ianson. I'm throwing Cade Anderson for a couple of reasons. Guys, if you're going into a super regional, you keep them on the same time frame. You cannot play around with the baseball gods. You can't do it. The baseball gods will come back to haunt you if you play around and taunt them. Wake Forest a year ago did what we were thinking and what we all are thinking, and not throwing their ace and lost. Guys, you can't disrespect the sport. Do I think that you could run your midweek guys out there and beat Little Rock? Yes, I do. But I also think timing comes a little bit of play in this. I have no idea who you're going to see. And I'm not going to come out here and act like I know who you're going to see. Because Little Rock is just not a good team. And we've talked about the other two teams in Rhode Island and DBU. You should be able to go out there and just swing the sticks, and no matter who you throw, it is what it is. But if you can't beat DBU or Rhode Island in a game 2 scenario with Anthony Ianson, you're going to have to throw whoever in game 3 anyway, whether you win or lose it. It doesn't matter. I think I look at this matchup and say this. DBU's biggest weakness has been their bullpen and their starting arms. Guys, they don't have more arms than you. They don't have better arms than you. So you got to look a little bit ahead of schedule here to also talk about what you got right in front of you. You can't disrespect the sport. Now, the kid that they'll throw, he's okay, I guess. He's got an over 5 ERA. He's got some filthy stuff. I mean, he's over a strikeout an inning. I mean, he's got some filthy stuff. And against slow-throwing guys and guys that can throw hard, I mean, look, you got to go out there and do what you did like in 2023, in my humble opinion. I've seen some controversy for people like thinking that they know more than Mikey Matuk as an example on Twitter. Idiot. But it just comes down to the overall theme that I'm going Cade Anderson game 1 and I'm going Anthony Ianson game 2 and letting the depth of my really talented roster lead me to a regional win. It's what led you to a win in 2023. And look, this team isn't good, and I get that. But Tulane also came in here and hit Skeens around too. And you can't take that. You can't take that chance. And listen, starting Kate Anderson really will affect how you use your bullpen down the stretch. Legitimately. Are you going to go out there in game one and burn your bullpen if things don't go well? Now, in postseason play, guys, everything's up for grabs. There is a pitch count, but there really isn't. If Zach Cowan goes 65 pitches one day and goes 50 the next, for you to win a regional to get to a supers, by God, it's got to happen. Because you got to survive here. But, man, I'm just not disrespecting the baseball gods. And that's where I sit. All right. Let's get out of here. We'll see y'all tomorrow, man. Only a couple more days and LSU baseball's back on the diamond. And we're really here for it. We'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a good one. Peace.